Greg grew up in Brigham City with 12 brothers and sisters. His dad was a dairy farmer, and his mom volunteered at the Children's Society Aid of Utah. This is an orphanage in Ogden, Utah. Greg doesn't know anything about where he came from, who his biological family is, or exactly what his diagnosis is. All he knows is that when he was 16 days old, he was dropped off at an orphanage, and he lived there until he was adopted at 18 months old. Greg's biggest accomplishment is his success and independence in his job and life, despite the discouragement from many people in his life who had told him he couldn't do anything because of his disabilities. Greg currently works at Walmart and is very proud of the independence this brings him as an individual with intellectual disabilities. Greg has served as a chairman for the Utah Consumer Advisory Council, as an ambassador for Best Buddies Utah State, and is the current buddy director for Best Buddies Utah State. Let's give a warm welcome to Greg.
I feel it an honor to be able to stand with you, before you, and speak to you as a part of this wonderful event of Aggie Heroes. I'm Greg Beecher. This is my story. When I was 16 days old, I was placed in the Ogden orphanage called the Children's Aid Society of Utah. I lived there until I was adopted by a couple in Brigham City when I was 18 months old. My mother and father, my mother was a volunteer at the Children's Aid. That's how she came to adopt me. My mother and father were on their second marriage, and so each of them had 6 kids, and they adopted me when I was 16 days old. Now, most people say that the number 13 is very unlucky. I'd like to think of myself as lucky 13, not unlucky 13. So, I have 2 stepbrothers and 4 stepsisters. I have 2 brothers that live here in Logan, and I don't talk to them. They haven't talked to me in like 4 years. I'm like, hey, I'm a great guy. What are you trying to tell me? I'm like, no, but that's a different story. Thank you. People tend to think when you have a disability, there's only one type of disability. It's one type. What I'm trying to do in my personal is change people's narrow-minded perspective of people with developmental disabilities. Sure, I face challenges just like anyone else does. One of the challenges I face as a person with an intellectual disability is equality. And I have a really poor balance. So one other thing is I fall really easily. It's a struggle for me daily. It's not something that I struggle with off and on. It's a daily struggle to people see me as a disabled person. I want to be seen as Greg, not Greg with a disability. I've fought for this my whole life, to be seen as Greg, not Greg with a disability, just Greg. People with disabilities are often faced with challenges, but we have the strength and desire to overcome these challenges and not look at them as hindrances, but as a way to overcome adversity. We might have to do things differently or do things in a different way. But independence is very important to us. Any help you give us is appreciated, but too much help is actually keeping us from obtaining our independence. One thing I did as chairman of the Utah Consumer Advisory Council is I was able to attend a national conference for people with developmental disabilities in Washington, D.C. I met a man there, and in Washington, D.C., they're way behind the times of weeks. So I'm talking to this gentleman, and I go, and I'm talking, and I say, well, you choose when to eat, right? No, they actually tell us when we eat. Well, you choose when you wake up. No, they tell us when to wake up. Well, you got to choose when you go to bed. No, they tell us when they go to bed. And I was talking to him, and I was telling him, well, I get to choose when I go to bed. I get to choose when I eat. And I get to choose where I work and what. And he's like, wait a minute. You get to choose? And he's like, well, I'm like, what an awesome concept. And he's like, how could I do this? How could I bring this that you have in Utah to Tennessee? And I said, I don't know, but I'm working. But he was so shocked that I have all these rights that I have by myself without being told. Right now I have a job at Walmart. I'm a greeter at Walmart. Most people like me don't have the opportunity to work a job independently at Walmart. And it is. When I go to work, I go in there and I work totally independently. A couple of months ago, I think it was in June. Yeah, June, I was actually Associate of the Month for the North Logan Walmart. Thank you. Thank you. And a lot of people like me can't say they were actually Associate of the Month. But the thing is, when I'm at Walmart, people don't treat me any way different. They treat me as another part of the team. And that's another employee. Is that important to me? Well, yes, it is. I'll tell you why. Because when you're striving for equality, that's the way it should be. To have someone with a disability say, to have me with a disability, to have come up here and say, you know, for June, I was an employee of the month for June for Walmart. It's like, and then it's kind of like I stand here and I say that to myself and I think, that's pretty awesome. But what I'm trying to say is people with disabilities are no different than the average man on the street. We want the same rights. We want the same things you do. We want to be treated equally as an equal part of the community. Now, a lot of times they segregate. Like there's a regular community, there's a disability community. Why does it have to be that way? You know, it surprises me how many times people try to separate both communities. Why? We all live in the same community. Oh, well, we're in the disability community. That's weird. I thought you lived in Logan. Okay. I do live in Logan, and I go, I do live in Logan, but it's a separate community. And I was like, I'm confused. I thought there was only one Logan. well, yeah, there's only one Logan, but it's segregated. And they're like, segregated? What the heck is segregated? They're like, well, there's the disability Logan, and there's Logan. And they're like, wow, that must be an awesome, big town. Why do you say that? Because there's so many disabilities in Logan. And it's like you have your own town. And I'm like, that's not quite what I was trying to convey. So, yeah. No, but the thing is, when you strive for equality for people with disabilities, and, we want to be treated fairly, but I also want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here tonight and speak to you on behalf of people with developmental disabilities. And, we matter. One thing I think is people think we don't matter. We do matter. And I was trying to think of an analogy, like, well, we have lungs, we have a heart, we're the same people that you deal with every day. We might walk a little different, or we might talk a little different, but we're just people. We're not people that are special. It's funny because I was in special ed, and I'm like, oh, wow, special ed. I have my own education system. This is cool. And I'm like, wait a minute. No, this is not cool. Why? If you think about it, why are people with disabilities so much different than your average community person? And you think, I want to be where that person is. Even though they don't have a disability, I want to have the same rights and responsibilities of that person. Now, I've been able to work at Walmart as a regular employee. And for people with disabilities, a lot of times they can't say that. They can't. It's just not possible. But I've been able to be in the community and relate to people who have issues with their disability. But I treat them just as anyone else would. Anyway, just like I would want to be treated fairly. And and so in closing, I'd like to say, when you come across someone with disabilities, don't be shy. Don't be timid to go up and ask them questions. Or don't be timid to go up and strike a conversation. Because we want your help. And we want your friendship. And darn spider monkeys are back here. I don't know why they're back there. But seriously, on another note, just treat us like you would any other member of the community. And I also want to thank you for giving me this tremendous opportunity to come here and speak to you tonight. Thank you very much.